From the closet under the stairs studio, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, depending on what time zone you're in, considering you can be watching or listening to this from around the world via YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other streaming platforms. Welcome to another Games Talk Live, folks. I am Jay Fonz, and with me today is a guest that's, well, he spent several years as an animator and lead animator at 343 Industries, working on a little game you may know called Halo. Halo 5 to be exact, and a little bit of a Halo Infinite, and we'll get into that later. But today, he comes to us as a solo game developer who's about to launch his very first independent game called Song of Iron. Everyone, please welcome my guest, Mr. Joe Winner.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, man, it's awesome of you to swing by my little studio here and talk to me. I want to talk a little bit about you right now. And of course, I want to ask you some questions on basically you worked for 343 in the past. Now you're working on your own. What is it like to go solo after working with other companies under bigger umbrellas? What are some of the difference there? What are some of the challenges you faced?
Yeah, it is a totally different beast, and I love both of them. Honestly, I really like both versions of it. I think the main difference is, the bigger the company is, the less hats you wear. So, when I was an animator or the animation lead, I was super focused on, one or two things. And at that point, even like small pieces, one or two things. And just making sure that little touch of the game was good. And now with the indie scene and being pretty much solo on the project, I have to hold all the stuff in my head and make sure everything's lining up and everything's cohesive. And that's a good thing. I really like that, actually. But it is like a major kind of shift in the way I think about stuff and the way I work. And like animation, I should be working a ton on for the game, but it's like the thing I spend the least amount of time on for Song of Iron, because I can do it really quick, and I've been learning so much. I had to spend all this time on the new stuff. So
now, do you get, like, even though you're not underneath a big umbrella corporate, you're not underneath somebody else, you're going solo here with this game. Was there still like an overwhelming sense of pressure of getting this game out there?
Yeah, I mean, in the last 3-4 months or so, it's definitely been building and building, maybe even longer than that. I think once there was an audience and there was people behind it and excited for it, and I'd get messages and stuff, it stopped becoming my game, and it kind of already was becoming the game that the fans were looking forward to and stuff. And I definitely it stopped being something that I wanted to do just to see if I could do it, and became something that I needed to do for the people that had been there and excited for it. And it's this great mix because it really pushes me forward, but there's definitely pressure to live up to what I've shown and the hype, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely
most definitely. And I myself got to play this game early, thanks to you, of course. Thank you very much, Joe.
Yeah.
I had a great time with it. I'm not going to say much more than that. Of course, you see the trailer up on the screen now. I'm not going to spoil anything on this show about it, but what is some of your what are the benefits to going solo?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, the biggest takeaways, is the creative control, and also sort of with the control comes this sort of I'm touching everything, so everything maintains the vision that I kind of went in with. I think with a bigger studio, for example, you'll have your director, and then that information gets slowly sent out to everybody, and it's this big game of telephone trying to get everybody on the same page, so everybody's moving in the same direction. And that obviously it works if big games come out and they're great and stuff, but it's definitely a struggle. And it's been awesome to just have to use my own ideas and then be able to really see those ideas in every single little bit of it, a bit of the game. And that's been just kind of a relief. And it's just nice to kind of do your own thing. I have an idea, and then you get to do it instead of pitching it to someone and having the fate of it be totally in their hands and everything.
Like some of the ideas that we were talking about pre-show that you implemented that, we won't get into, but I get where you're going with that, because those are the type of things that would have to really, you'd have to pitch that hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. That stuff.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, I can't wait for people to play the game and experience it for themselves. And of course, that comes out the 31st, which is just in a couple of days, man. How does that feel?
It's I'm surprisingly calm at this point. I've been going up and down on nerves, so I think I'm feeling good. There's not much more I can do, so I just have to accept it and let it come. Tomorrow, I'm actually the most nervous about because the review embargo will lift tomorrow, so we'll start seeing what people think of it. And that should tell a lot. But
yeah,
hopefully it's good. I mean, you said you had fun, and I've heard some good things, so I really hope that keeps going through with the reviews. That'll be awesome, and then it's out in everybody's hands, and I'm just really excited.
Yeah, I wanted to say what's up to the chat. We've got a lot of good people in here watching. Tony Bryant, what's up? Eric Cuts for the win. Hello there. El Domingo, bunch of good people. Philly Eagle, Gone Mad. Lots of great people here. Yodani. So, I had fun with the game, but we're going to play another game right now, speaking of games. And this is a little game that you may not have seen on my show if you haven't watched it, but I like to call it, well, I didn't do it right there. 5 questions, okay?
All right, let's do it.
So 5 questions. This is 5 questions. I'm going to give you 4 trivia questions. 1 is going to be subjective. So you'll be able to answer that any way you please. But you got to get the first 4 right. Okay.
Oh, geez. No pressure.
So,
all right.
So I got to get this going here. So if you get a question right, you'll hear this. If you get a question wrong, you'll hear this. So you understand how it goes?
Got it.
Let's play the game. All right. So first question. This is Lara Croft is the protagonist from what popular gaming franchise?
Lara Croft.
Lara Croft is the protagonist from the what
popular
gaming franchise?
I instantly get the first one wrong because now I'm just thinking the game is named Lara Croft.
No.
Tomb Raider.
Yes.
There we go.
I was gonna say what's going on here?
Straight to farts. Perfect. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, second question. What is the name of the world in which the majority of the Warcraft series is set in?
Oh, geez. Azeroth. Hey, let's go. I shouldn't know that. Barely in my mind. Yeah, sorry.
Here's another one. What was the Game Link cable used for?
Game Link. Is that 2 Game Boys?
That's right.
Let's go.
You got it. Last question, Joe. Well, last of the trivia. What year was the Atari 2600 released?
84.
77.
Oh, man.
1977. It's okay.
So close.
3 out of 4 there. But here's your last and final question, which of course you'll get right, and we can turn off the music for this.
Dramatic.
Favorite gaming experience of all time? Could be your favorite game or experience in gaming of all time.
Oh, man. That's rough. There's so much good stuff out there. I think there's some moments that I had in playing DayZ that I think in the moment to moment, they probably win. I've never had such adrenaline rushes in games from DayZ, and those stand out big time for me.
Really?
So
okay. Yeah, I could get with that.
I wouldn't call it my favorite game of all time. It's probably barely on the top 5 list, but as far as like moments that I like lost it after, I think that it might be in there.
I had similar moments with a little game called Ultima Online.
Yeah, exactly. Some of that stuff. Oof.
Yeah, and a little story about Ultima, though, I'm going to tell you because it was pretty funny. My oldest brother used to play this game religiously back in the day, and he used to have a lot of rare items he used to pick up. And then if he had any extra of these rare items, and I'm talking really rare stuff, he would just hand it off to me and say, okay, little bro, go put this in your house. Don't walk around with this stuff because you can pretty much get ganked. People will come up and just take your stuff. They'll kill you and take it. So, of course, like a dummy, I'd be walking out there flashing all this stuff, had a lightsaber and stuff, and people are like, ooh, this guy, and they'd just take it from me, A gang of them would chase me, and the adrenaline you would get trying to run back to your house was just crazy. But
exactly. Yeah, there was just a few moments in that where it's hard to beat. It's such a dynamic. It's same with Ultima. It's like such a dynamic experience.
Yeah,
it's really hard for a normal game to beat it. But Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, I totally get
question.
it. Carlos Alvarado here with the $2 super chat says, Joe, would you have wanted this game in Game Pass?
Yeah, I totally. I think Game Pass is awesome. Especially for indies, it's a monster thing to be a part of that. And I still hold out hope. There's plenty of indies have come post-launch, have been asked to join post-launch. So hopefully it still works out. I'm super on board. The second I get the call, I'm in for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, because there's been a lot of talk around, great things about Game Pass mostly, but then you hear some people be real negative about it. And from a developer's perspective, I mean, your whole thoughts on Game Pass and the way it's structured. What are your overall feelings about it?
I mean, generally, I think it's awesome. I think for an indie, for the most part, it's it's a small amount of guaranteed success to be part of it, because the deal that gets struck there. Also, then you get this monster exposure that is really hard to get. I literally have zero marketing budget, and so all of that stuff is being done kind of by hand, and that is a monster tool for that. And all the numbers point to Game Pass. Like, you give it away for free, and more people buy it. So it's hard to argue with it.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get into our first topic here. We're going to talk about Gamescom 2021. Joe, first question for you about Gamescom. Was there any standout games here that you've seen so far?
I think
Gamescom?
I mean, unfortunately, Wukong came out like a week before, because that would be an easy top dog for me. But there's that kind of that bizarre game. I'm going to forget the name of it now. With little kids and running around, and there's all these colors and a little Dokev. That game looks so crazy. I can't wait to see what's going on with it. I think that stood out to me in a just like, this is different, and I'm really interested kind of way. And they're doing a crazy mix of really good visual environments, but still really cartoony. And I'm always down for something that's really stylized like that. I think we sway so far on both ends sometimes, and it's nice to have this kind of super like fever dream art style to go on and mess with it. It looks great. I mean, whatever it looks interesting.
Yeah. Now they presented a bunch of stuff, controllers, and you've got the new Halo Elite version 2 controller. You've got this new Halo console, the Series X console, which is beautiful in my opinion. I think that thing looks absolutely awesome. And I'm not into the whole decorative console thing, but this one looks really good. I wish I could have picked that up. I wish I could afford it, but I already have a Series X. What do I need a second one for, really? But they've also talked about cloud gaming and how cloud gaming was coming to the consoles, and how it was going to let you play Gen 9 games on Gen 8 hardware, which is pretty cool. I think that is really a game changer right there for a lot of gamers out there. If people haven't really experienced cloud gaming, it's getting better and better. It honestly is. At first, I was totally against this. Nah, I don't want this coming out. But the more I see of it, the more I actually use it within my home on good Wi-Fi. It's really pretty damn good. Really is. Yeah. So, any thoughts on cloud gaming?
I think it's awesome. I mean, I think it's going to have a hard time ever truly being better on multiplayer type games. I think you just have an issue with physics where you have to send it to a server, then back to the other people. Like, physics will just never be defeated in that way as far as distance is concerned. But for stuff like single player games or more casual multiplayer games, I think it's going to be awesome. And anything that increases people's ability to play games, I think is a good thing. It gets rid of a lot of the paywalls that exist, even if they don't seem like it. Getting consoles is hard for some people, and in theory, this lets people who've got an old Xbox play Series X games, looking really good. I think that's great. That's so good.
It's really awesome. Yeah, it's a game changer for sure for a lot of people out there. But did you get a chance to, or did you even want to snag up one of those controllers?
I definitely thought about it, but I was way too slow. I've got a cheap controller from 5's launch, and that was sort of my special one over there. I think that was a public one, but It looks a lot like the controller that they showed. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to kind of have a fake one before everybody else.
I'm too cheap to buy one of those expensive controllers, man. Seriously, the Elite controllers are sweet, nice. I hear a lot of great things about them, but I just can't pull the trigger. Like I definitely have had the money for it before, and I've put it in my cart before, and I'm like, okay, about to check out, and then I have that instant like remorse going, no, I don't want to. I'm putting it back.
Yeah.
And
I've never bought one for myself, but we had them at 343 all over the place, and I do really like them. I love how heavy they feel and all that kind of stuff. It just exactly. I mean, it just has that feel, and I do really like that. But I like you. I've never pulled the trigger at home.
Yeah, and
I still like the 360 controller. Honestly, there's something about it.
Really,
I've never. It's something. Yeah.
So, of course, at Gamescom, they showed a lot of expansions as well. It's like they showed Destiny, Minecraft Dungeons, State of Decay expansion coming. There was a lot of expansion shown instead of just games, but I get it. You know, the current world we're living in right now, a lot of this stuff has been set back. We've had a lot of things that we're looking forward to that we're not going to get. And we'll get into one of those things in a little bit because I want to pick your brain a bit. But they showed games like Far Cry 6, Halo Infinite. There was Saints Row. Saints Row, there was some, this is getting kind of a lot of backlash. The Saints Row reboot. And I think it has a lot to do with the characters themselves that you play as, or, you know, your group anyway. It gave me a bunch of Watch Dogs 2 vibes, in that they kind of look like these trendy hipsters.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing.
Saints Row is usually traditionally like about, you know, gangsters and all that stuff. So now you're getting kind of the trendy hipster feel like Watch Dogs 2, in my opinion. But you know what? It's going to be a day one for me regardless, because it's Saints Row. I've played all of them, and I have a fun time within their sandbox regardless. So I don't know. I guess because you can make your own character, I'm going to make my character look like however I want. So
yeah, exactly. And that's the power of it, right?
Yeah.
Here's the neutral version we'll show. Know that you can make it what you want it to make it.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of the game. I mean, if they made you play as, you know, a certain character and you didn't like the way they looked or acted, then I mean, you'd be stuck. You'd be stuck with the way they look, at least. But Halo Infinite is that game that we're not going to be seeing all of this holiday. Apparently, you know, with 343, you used to work there. You worked a little bit on Halo Infinite. I don't know how much you did. How much did you work on it?
I mean, pretty much from its inception, I was working on it. I did like a year and a half before launch of Halo 5, and then 6 to 8 months of post-launch support, and then we pretty much moved over in bits and pieces.
That's right, because
start the new thing.
You had left in 2020, right?
I joined. Let's see. Yeah, I left at the end of 2020, like literally December 31st. Yeah.
And this game last year was supposedly about ready to launch last year, so I guess there was a lot of changes made. Now this whole delay, this year-long delay they took, what kind of changes do you think we can expect here? Like what?
It's a tough one because they didn't show so much. I think what they're going to be changing is all the stuff that fans were rightfully complaining about from that play
from
reveal.
A graphical standpoint,
the graphical standpoint, and there was a various amount of concerns from what they saw, and those things I think we've already seen have been addressed in a lot of ways. I've seen some side by side of like the guns from that trailer, or that video, to the newer stuff, and a lot of that. I guess it's small stuff, but that's sort of like they did a bunch of that globally that has just brought the whole game up. And I think it was enough of a, we'll call it backlash, but like response that, you know, I think people who wanted enough time to change those things had enough power to get what they wanted. And so we got the year, and it's way better to do. I'm saying this in a few shows. I think it's way better to say we're going to do a huge delay. We're just going to really go for it with a year, than do a 3 month and then a 3 month and a 3 month. It's so hard on the developers and stuff to do those short delays. And then the year lets you do the thing the right way too. You know, if it's like, okay, well, this system wasn't good, but we were hacking it in. It was going to be ready for last year, but if we have a year, we can do it the right way, and it will survive. We won't have to redo it again in 6 months. So,
yeah. Now, speaking of delays, though, like, they've delayed the co-op in the Forge, of course. Co-op has really been a main staple since the inception of Halo, and not having that core fundamental element, which even Joseph Staten calls it, day one, is a big issue with a lot of gamers out there. I know it's a point of contention. There's a divide in the community, and there's a lot of people saying, hey, that's not a big deal. We can wait. And there's others saying, hey, I played this traditionally with my brother, my kids, whatever, your spouse, and they don't get to do that this time around. What's your feelings on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a miss. I guarantee they wanted it in there, and they've probably been trying really hard, and they're trying to make the best choice would be my guess. But I totally think it's a miss for me. I think, in a lot of ways, Halo is co-op to people, the way that they experience it. And so I think they're rightfully upset. I mean, in some ways, to a lot of them, it's the same for others if multiplayer didn't exist. That number is admittedly smaller, but it doesn't matter. I mean, that's still this chunk of people who kind of don't get to play yet.
I want to throw out something. First of all, I just want to read this real quick. Carlos Alvarado says, Joe, I pre-ordered. It's been pre-ordered by a lot of us, talking about Song of Iron. We support you. That's awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Carlos. And I know Joe does as well.
Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, really very much.
But I want to get into this here. Philly Eagle. A lot of people have stated this because they're getting statistics from Halo 5, and they're showing that co-op has only had like 7%, 7 to 10%, some people say 6% played co-op and beat it through co-op. But I just like to say this. That's not really a good measurement of, how many people actually play this co-op, because if you look at Halo 5 in general, the amount of people who beat the game in solo is really low. Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't gauge it on Halo 5 statistics, really. Yeah,
and I'm not trying to gauge it like it doesn't matter or it matters more one way or the other. I'm just saying that some people, a 6% or so, that's how Halo, like what they experience Halo as. And so it's sort of like basically removing 6% of your audience. And it's unfortunate. And it's like they are rightfully upset because their game is getting delayed while everybody else's game isn't. And I think the percentage thing is a bit of a red herring in a way, because it's not really what it's about, right? It's about trying to make everybody happy. And I understand why those people are upset. I'm a little upset. That's how I would love to play it, but unfortunately, I'll just have to wait for it. But.
A lot of people, and I get it, like Philly Eagles saying, to be honest, Fonz, I actually agree with you, bro. I'm just being selfish because I don't play co-op. Here's the thing, Joe, I don't play co-op. I don't do it. However, I have friends that do. I have friends that play it with their sons. I have, friends that play it with their friends. And so I'm just out here kind of, fighting the good fight, saying, hey, personally, now this is just me. I wish they would have delayed it just for the co-op at least. But I understand at the same time them trying to get it out before holiday because they've spent so much time on this game. My only worry, Joe, is that maybe other things might not be up to snuff when it drops. And I hope it's not that way. But a question for you would be, what exactly do you think, or, not exactly, but what do you think could be wrong with co-op day one? Like, why do you think they had to postpone that?
I think as the other things are concerned, I think they're just one of the things they're delaying so that they can make sure that other stuff doesn't have those issues. So as much as you can see, this is a bad sign of like not delivering on what they wanted to deliver on. They're trying to make the right decision so that this is the only problem, right? It would be the goal, at least. My guess would just be technology. There's no other, it's maybe a too broad of an answer, but with the size of the world they're talking about and all that stuff, I imagine it's a technology problem. I mean, Halo's traditionally such a corridor, small world thing that there's a massive difference in how that stuff has to be dealt with.
Okay, so I'm of the mind to believe that, it's got to be some tech issue because of the open world and, getting guys to checkpoints together and all this stuff, rather than it being what some people put out there as this was all designed to be this way, that co-op was designed to be in season 2 for season 2's sake. which I don't believe at all. I mean, do you think they would do something like that?
No, honestly, you could never do it that way without wasting tons of money and time. I mean, like any sort of co-op or multiplayer thing, which involves networking code and stuff, has to be built like that from basically the ground floor. There's so much involved with that. You really need to do it from the beginning, and they just clearly feel that it's not right for that. But there's no way that they like started it late or something. It's definitely,
especially if they are going to, put a Halo campaign out there. You'd think that they'd want co-op their day one, just like the rest of them. Totally. That's the main issue there. I've got a super chat from Yodani Casada here who says, for Joe, do you need to know any horse mythology to understand the Song of Iron story in its entirety?
No horse mythology or Norse mythology. Yeah, is necessary. No, if Norse. You don't need any of it. It's, I think I say Nordic inspired most of the time because it's really, and you've played it and you can speak to it a little bit without us giving anything away. It's just, you're in that world, but I'm not smashing Norse stuff at you the whole time. It's just you. And I think it's nice. It makes it a little different than other Viking games, which they just throw every Viking thing there is at you. And I really do that.
Yeah. We understood the Norse. I just I did. Horse.
Sorry.
But we understood what you were talking about, man. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
But so, again, Halo Infinite's dropping December 8th, guys. Don't worry. For those of you that are saying, Fonz, don't ask for a delay. I'm not going to change anything. Nobody's going to change anything here. It was just something that I wanted. I wanted a complete package. That's all. To release day one.
Understandable. Yeah.
And because, I mean, if you really think about it, this is probably the most under-featured campaign you're going to get day one. Since its inception, really, from Halo Combat Evolved. Because you're not going to get those two modes. And right now, multiplayer's basically kind of split from the campaign game. It's free to play. So, I don't know. Like, it's they're doing a lot of different things there. How do you feel about the whole 10-year plan or this live service plan for Halo?
It's always a tough one. I mean, I think items love that stuff because I don't always want to move on and relearn a game and like move on to the iterations when I really love the game. So we'll see how that develops. I'm actually really curious how they do. The follow-up of Halo 5 was actually really good. I think the entire Metacritic of the game went up maybe like 1.5 points over time because they really took time and adopted it and fixed it in a lot of ways, and people liked it way better than at launch. And if all you want is more Halo and better Halo, then the longer time can be spent on like a multiplayer iterations, the better it's going to be for people. And but it's always interesting, whenever anybody throws out the 10-year plan, like Destiny kind of had a similar one, I'm always skeptical about that because if the second one thing doesn't really work out, or a new trend shows up, who knows what's going to happen? Yeah. But I think in general it's good, assuming it's all consumer friendly and there's not shady practice going on. But I don't think Microsoft's about to do anything crazy. Yeah.
That's all I care about. As long as it's not something crazy that they're going to do with microtransactions and stuff, I get it. Yeah. Eternal Umbra has said, under-featured campaign. No, the campaign is still the same. Forge isn't part of the campaign. Fonz, my dude. I'm talking about co-op, really. The fact that co-op isn't there day one is, a really big deal, though, man. And it really does put a downer for a lot of people on the campaign. Because that's part of, the experience when people buy this game, a lot of them like that co-op. So I get it. So Gone Mad with the $50 says the kidney stone has passed for now. I don't know what that means, Gone Mad.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Hopefully you're doing it right.
I hope you're okay, man. Because I've heard those really hurt, man. So
no, thank you.
Yeah, no thanks. So, you know what? I just hope for the best for Halo Infinite. I really hope that, this direction they're moving to is a good one because I'm still kind of leery on this whole thing going live service for Halo, but I'm going to play it day one. I'm going to try this game and hopefully it's great. And that's all I care about. That's what I want.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I've been away long enough now that I'm excited to see it with fresh eyes, and it's fun. I've like forgotten about it in a weird way, where I'll be launching 2 games this year in like a couple months apart, and it's going to be pretty wild. But it's a little different because I'm not obviously in that team anymore. But
yeah.
I really hope people like it. I know people love the franchise. I love the franchise. It's one of the reasons I wanted to work there. And I want nothing but the best for the fans of the franchise. So hopefully people like it.
Yeah. And as D-Batch says, please hit that like button if you like this episode here. I appreciate it very much. It's great to have Joe Winter here, of course, developer of Song of Iron. That game comes out the 31st, guys. Please go out there. Support these indie developers because, these games, it's been indie season. We've had so many good indie games lately that it's nuts, man. And we were talking about that pre-show, and one of the games I started to talk about a bit, which really isn't an indie game per se, because I feel like it got the treatment of AAA, but it was Psychonauts 2. Now, I don't believe you've tried to play this game yet.
Not yet, no. It's on my growing list of things that I'm dying to get into.
I'm going to play some gameplay. It's early on. It's no spoilers here. This is what I've been playing through since yesterday. I've played a good 6 hours now, and I'm having a blast in the game. It's really one of those things where it brings back a lot of the charm and the storytelling of the first game, but with AAA treatment, as I said. And
yeah, it looks great.
The visuals. Now, this is something that really took me aback because a lot of people were saying that the visuals some people were saying it was ugly. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. This art style, if it had been any different, I would have been disappointed because I played the first game years ago, enjoyed it. Me and my oldest daughter played through this game. It was one of her favorite games. And we both loved this art style. If it had changed, I would have been upset. But the graphics, the textures are amazing, are great in this game. I mean, you could tell a lot of time and effort was poured into this game. And the fun factor, and that's what a lot of people forget about in game scoring nowadays, it seems like. The fun factor is great in this game. Like the feel, everything on this game is so much better than the first that, I'm playing it in 120 frames, Joe. 120 frames
so awesome.
On console. And it's so smooth, feels so good, looks amazing. Awesome. I'm blown away. And my 7-year-old daughter now is sitting beside me watching me play this game, and she just loves it. She laughs. She has a good time while I play this game. And it's nice to have a game. And it's got good messaging too throughout the game, which the first one did as well. And that, you don't get experiences like this that often. Honestly, I'm only 6 hours in, but I wouldn't be surprised if I called this a Game of the Year contender.
Hearing that a lot. Hearing a lot of that.
So it's really a good game. Really impressed with it. When you get a chance to play this game, man.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah,
definitely
I can't wait.
Play it.
Yeah, I think, the art style stuff, I think we, like you're saying, fun factor, I think we kind of forget that we should be we can be artsy with stuff, and it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but this is so like Nightmare Before Christmas, Tim Burton to me, and I just love that stuff, and like, I don't know, everything doesn't have to be clean and polished, and I doubt that's what people are saying, but it's nice to be weird sometimes.
Oh, it's very
super
clean.
For it. Yeah.
Very clean, very polished. Like I said, it's the art style for some that has people kind of turned off, but honestly, it's so good, man.
Yeah,
it's really good. It does have that Tim Burton vibe. So
yeah, totally.
And the way that like these different types of platforming you do, sometimes you're side scrolling, sometimes you're going through it this way in third person, and it's awesome.
It's so cool.
It's awesome the way it changes. And, it's even got its own little almost dimensional pockets you jump through and change to different worlds, kind of like Ratchet and Clank almost, which brings up an interesting thing that came up recently. I don't know if you heard about this, but apparently a game developer named John Burton, last name's Burton, Lego creator, developer, he claims that Ratchet and Clank these riffs could be done on the PS3. Any thoughts on that as a developer? Because I find that kind of crazy.
I mean, it depends on what he means by it. I mean, like clearly they're pushing a really high fidelity with Ratchet and Clank. I think it's one of the best looking games we've seen in a while, just as far as like how much
Really
stuff's
is.
going on and how physics centric it is. So, but like the idea of streaming levels, which is what's happening. Yeah, I mean, I do it in my game. You just don't. You're not going through portals. You're just walking forever, and it's just a stream of levels. So it's not surprising that that's true. I don't know to what extent he's saying, but I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
Oh, really? You wouldn't doubt it?
Yeah,
Oh.
I wouldn't doubt that it was possible. It's just about it's about the cost of everything else, and having two levels at the fidelity that they have them on in Ratchet and Clank. Probably not. But
no.
But could we build a system that you teleport to different levels? Yeah, totally. I mean, no question.
Oh.
You just have to lower the cost of each level so it would be able to handle it.
Because this is something that has been touted by, Sony is saying that this can't be done. This Rift world creation going between the two could not be done on PS4 hardware, let alone PS3. That's why I don't know, like, I'd love to hear from Insomniac about this. I wish they would like come out and make a statement and say, well, this is why you can't do it here, and like try to explain it.
Yeah, it would really depend on what they're qualifying as, the portals, because all they really are two levels. That's all it is, and just a way to go between the two levels. So it depends on what they mean by that. But
So do you think that it would take maybe a loading screen to go through the two on the PS3 or PS4, or would it just be instant? Could it be instant?
It could be instant if you lowered the visual cost enough that both
really?
levels could run at the same time. I mean, Portal, which maybe was a little after PS3, maybe right towards the end, just as far as timing. That's sort of the same thing. It's loading the levels a few different. I mean, it's one level, but you could easily see a portal going to another room. It'd be the same thing in general.
Yeah.
I think.
Because there's kind of, like I said, in this game, there's kind of like these little pocket dimensions. Like there's a door that'll open up and you can jump through it, and it's a different, landscape and different visuals. And
yeah, totally. So, I think there's cool like tech demos of people have made where you're turning right hand turns, but really there's like 6 rooms, but like it's all this weird interdimensional stuff that you can do in a engine that doesn't exist in real life. And that stuff, it's not expensive. It's just about being good at that thing. And I couldn't do it, but it's been done. So
yeah, again, I'd still love to hear from
totally.
Insomniac and hear what they have to say about that, because I mean, they built the game. This of course is just one guy's opinion, but you're of the same mind that says that it could totally be done based on just the Rift thing going in between the two worlds. It could be done.
Yeah. You would just have to lower the visual fidelity of the game so that you could have both levels running, and as long as you can do that, you could go between them.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Based on my understanding of everything.
Yeah. Again, it's just one of those things where you'd have to hear from the developers themselves as well, because who knows what kind of, magic Insomniac does, because that game does look incredible. I mean, the ray tracing and everything in that game is just totally beautiful. But got another little video here to share. This one here is going to have some audio, because I want to bring up the fact that this is another PlayStation type thing, but it's the new PlayStation 5. Have you heard about the new PlayStation 5 that they've
made?
With
the heatsink issue that everybody's talking about? Or just in general?
Well, the new PlayStation 5, apparently it has a much smaller heatsink and no copper, and it gets a little warmer, apparently. And so I want to, Austin Evans, tech YouTuber, tore it down and compared it to the original PlayStation 5. And this is what he had to say about it.
Sony is able to get usable, good performance out of this smaller, lighter heatsink. They save money, and it should be okay. But we know that even with a very brief test, this one runs hotter, which makes sense because I'm sure the chip inside is the exact same. Look, you've got all this extra copper here.
Yeah.
They, I guess for the launch models, over-engineered the cooling
Which
that
they should
needed.
have done, because Sony, again, has had major problems with heat in their consoles.
I would guess what's happened is that Sony, now that they've got almost a year of PS5 data, they've spent more time testing everything, have determined that while, yes, this is going to run a little bit hotter, that's probably fine, that it won't negatively impact things that much.
I don't know, man. That doesn't seem wise, considering that the PS5, like you said, changes its wattage based on what's going on in the console.
So potentially long term, especially as you imagine this gets started to get caked in dust and whatnot, you've got less fins, less mass, you could actually lose performance.
Any thoughts on that? I'm not a big tech guy, but when I hear about, you got a smaller heat sink, no copper there, like the original one had, and I would automatically think that's going to get hotter regardless.
Yeah, I think my guess would be, I mean, just from their side, that how much hotter it gets is within some acceptable band, but it does feel, I'm not a great hardware person for sure, but if they think it's enough, like, go for it. But it seems like a weird move versus improving it and making it bigger if there was already a cooling issue. But I'm hardly the expert there.
Yeah. Me either. So I'm not out there saying, hey, PS5s, the new ones are going to burn or melt or any of that crazy stuff, because I don't think that's the case. Will they get a little hotter? Yeah. It's already been proven by Austin that it does get a little bit hotter. They're saying 5 degrees Celsius more.
It's not nothing.
So it's not nothing. And they were running, I think, Astro's Playroom. So if they were running a game, say the next God of War, how hot is that going to get? Like, we don't know. And like he said in the video, I'm just going to reiterate and say, I'm glad I have an original, just in case. Not telling you guys that it's going to burn, but I don't know. I don't like this cutting cost for, so they can make a dime sort of thing.
Yeah. Leave it with lots of ventilation if you've got a new one.
Yeah. Just kind of weird. Jorge Almeida says, Halo Anniversary runs 2 games at the same time, old and new on 360, and same for Halo 2 Anniversary. Yeah, you're right. It does.
Yep.
It really
That's
does.
exactly what I'm talking about too. Yeah, it's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. I think.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when I'm playing through the Halo Master Chief Collection, I go back and forth between the two, the old and new. And sometimes, call me crazy, but sometimes I prefer playing the older one.
Oh, yeah. The older is better in some places, definitely.
Because there's some instances where I'm in certain areas, it looks too busy, it looks too, I prefer the old stuff.
Oh, yeah, when we played it at the office, even we were always going back to the original. There's just something.
It's pretty cool that you could just do that, man. It's pretty awesome. But as far as the PS5, the new console, guys, don't worry about it. Like, we'll have to see some more testing on it. But right now, I'm not going to scream, "Hey, it's going to melt," because I think that's just the wrong way to go about it.
Alarms.
But yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I see Indie Gamer in the chat. What's up, Indie?
Hey.
Good to see you, buddy. Great guy. Really good guy. But yeah, so what have you been playing lately?
Oh man, I wish I was playing more. I honestly keep going back to stuff that's like kind of classic for me while I get through the launch week and stuff. But I play Rocket League kind of whenever I've got a couple minutes, because it's just such an easy pick up and go. I'm always jumping back into Valheim, which kind of popped over the summer. I love chopping down trees, I guess, but it's just such I'm purely in like comfort gaming zone right now with the launch coming up, while I build up this huge backlog that hopefully I can take some time and not work for a while after this and grind through. But
speaking of working, though, you working on your next game, possibly?
Not just yet. I'm still making sure this launch goes smoothly as it can. But I definitely have plans. I didn't know how to make a game when I started this from scratch. Like I didn't know. I've been in the industry forever, but I didn't know how to code. I learned Blueprints, which is Unreal's visual scripting coding program, and I learned that on the job basically. And there's all this other stuff I learned as I went, and so I have so much more knowledge about how to do things the right way and how to be more efficient and so on that I cannot wait to start part 2 of Song of Iron. I really can't wait. And Unreal 5 came out right before this is happening, so there's so much to explore there. They're doing so much cool stuff. I'm dying to get to it, but I'm gonna still take a break, even though I'm super excited because I definitely want to let everything recharge. But I'm not burnt out right now. I'm constantly thinking about part 2. Yeah,
That's great. That's great to know. Speaking of Unreal Engine 5, and you brought it up earlier, the Wukong game.
Ooh, so cool. It looks so
Now,
good.
that thing, honestly, it's one of the best, if not the best looking open world looking game, like third person action adventure at least, game that I've seen. It might be more linear than open world, but regardless, thing is beautiful, man. Yeah. And the animation in that, because you're an animator. Mm-hmm. What was your thoughts on the animation alone, man?
I mean, the animation stood out definitely. I think it was super clean, really, really well done. I think the dragon stood out the most to me. I mean, it's pretty good. You know, we've gotten our bipedal characters down pretty well. We can do them, but that long curling crazy motion and having that move and switch through attacks is a challenge, and they did a really, really impressive job with that. Unbelievable. So
I think the move set alone, the animations of your character alone in that game is just amazing. And just I think overall, what makes this game sort of exciting to me is that it's not unlike a lot of other games out there, but it's got its own unique style and just the way they do certain things. Like, for instance, he walks up and you see one of the enemies on the roof. He throws an apple. It hits a guy on the ground that's frozen or something. Wakes him up and he proceeds to fight you. It's little things like that I love in games that it's so fun, so interesting.
Yeah, it adds so much to the world, and that there's more than you happening, and I think that breathes life into that stuff. And I totally love it.
Yeah, ever since I saw that game, I was just blown away by it. Now Unreal Engine 5 comes along and just makes the game look even better. And I'm like, geez.
Yeah,
so
Unreal 5 is crazy.
So Unreal Engine 4, that's what you based your game on, Song of Iron. How hard was that to learn, to code and all of that? Like, was it, how long did it take you, man?
I mean, it's, I'm lucky enough to have been in the industry for like 15 years. So I I had this advantage of knowing the right questions to ask right away. And I had the right direction to look when I needed to find answers to stuff, which helped a lot, even if I didn't know like anything about it. But I spent 2 years on the project. I think I started in July of 2019. It's fairly short, it feels like, but it was just 40 hours a week, even if I was working or not. And it was tough, but I love the discovery process and the learning process and building something. And so it never felt like a struggle. I mean, I would get into the tough spots, but it was always an adventure to like figure it out. And then once I figured it out, how to make sure I'm doing it a way that scales for the game and not just this really bad tutorial version of it that works for one situation or whatever. And then I sort of went from there, and I just kind of kept working on it. And I knew to scope as far as I could. I kept things small so that I could withstand issues and hurdles. And I luckily had a story, which is the full trilogy, really early on. And so I never had to change paths too much, and that helped a lot. But
so you already had the scope of the game planned out, 3 games. So you already knew that this is something you're going to be working on for years. Yeah.
I think I had the story. It was too big, and a lot of choices I made early was to make sure that I could get this game done in a reasonable amount of time. No multiplayer, side scroller, a few other things like that. Chop the story in 3 pieces, and that helped keep it in scope. And then also because I had planned ahead, I already kind of knew where I was going. So all I had to do was get from point A to point B, and then just fill it in. So it helped a lot.
Yeah, no, it's so awesome. And you know what it reminded me of too is as I was playing through the game, it reminded me some of like Inside in a way. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's great. I mean, that's
feels
the
kinda
best
like
compliment. That's the best compliment I can get for the game.
And it was but of course you're a Viking and you're going through different types of, scenarios here. And I think it was pretty darn cool that, it was like Inside, but mature, like more mature. Like,
yeah, and I took a lot of inspiration from Inside, so it's awesome that comes across. 'Cause that game is amazing in so many different ways, and it's very different in a lot of ways. Because you're a Viking and there's combat and all this sort of stuff, but yeah, they were just doing something special there, and hopefully there's just a little bit of that magic. That'd be
and you guys don't understand in the chat. I want to say so much more on this game. I really do, but I can't. There's so much cool stuff that happens and stuff. Anyway, you got to play this game again. 31st.
Almost. Yep.
It drops. And most of you have already said in the chat that you've pre-ordered it. That's awesome. Joe and I both say that's amazing of you guys. Thank you very much. But yeah, anything about this game that you'd love for people to take away from?
It's a tough one. I mean, I just really hope that people enjoy it. I think, I come from it from an animation perspective, and so I'm really trying to make something that you can tell your own combat story way more than a lot of overly choreographed stuff. So I really left a lot of it up to the player and physics in a certain way to sort of style on enemies if you want. And I think that's kind of added a slightly unique kind of bit of it. But also it's a full experience. So like Inside, it's about that journey. And so just sort of relaxing and having fun with it is definitely the right way to play and not worrying too much about. And it's not a Souls-like. I know people ask me that a lot. No. I think it's going to be really hard. It's really not meant to. It's meant to be a more fluid story that you can move through.
I'd say it can be a little challenging.
It can be challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be. But now, as far as, your inspirations, you said Inside. Was there any other inspirations for the game?
Yeah, I think, I pull stuff from all over, but I think, weirdly, Journey is a really big inspiration. I think, like Inside, they do such a good world building. There's so much world building in there. It's so beautiful. They don't say any words. I love that stuff. DayZ, weirdly enough, just the style, the idea that like a game that's super grounded in reality in a lot of ways. It doesn't have to be this big and massive sort of thing. Actually can be really good. I think things are more intimate when you let them be more realistic, and that adds a lot of sort of emotion that you don't, it's not even emotion maybe, just it adds something that I think you lose if you make something too Call of Duty as like a sort of dramatic comparison, right? And so those sorts of games I'm really inspired by. But Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, you name it, I'm inspired by all that stuff. And I pull in tiny bits of things from all over. Mega Man X, weirdly enough, with the way that they do the loot in there.
Phil Eagle says, I'm going to be narrating my combat scenes. LOL.
Hey, perfect. I'll do it.
You'll be feeling like a badass running around, and
love it.
It's fun. So Joe, we're pretty much at the end of the show here. Let everybody out there know where they can find you and all that good stuff, sir.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. This was super fun. I only missed one question. I'm very upset about it, but I'll get over it. Not bad.
You'll be back.
I'll be back. Yeah, I'll be ready.
You'll be back.
You can find me. Twitter is where I'm most active, and that's just at Song of Iron, but also on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all the kind of classic places. But if you go to songofiron.com, you can find links to anything and everything you need Song of Iron related.
You know what's funny? You mentioned TikTok, and I'm like, and then you right after you say, like all the places that that is like a big thing now, like social media platform. Like massive. People are all out there on TikTok. Xbox is on TikTok. Mm-hmm. Everybody's on TikTok.
Yeah, so, it's really turned into a monster. Yeah,
it's crazy,
and it's one of those things for a developer where the algorithm is not developed enough, so you can pop off pretty well if you're lucky, compared to like YouTube, where you're just never going to go anywhere.
You're right, because I heard that like a lot of music and stuff is actually getting like popular through TikTok. Like a lot of independent artists and stuff have gained a large following and made a lot of money based off just being on TikTok.
Totally.
So that's pretty crazy, man. But yeah, follow them, guys, everywhere, and girls out there. Erica's out there says, good luck, Joe. Enjoy this moment. Exactly. Good luck.
Totally. Yeah.
Enjoy this moment, man. And again, guys, you can find me on all streaming platforms out there: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts. I'm everywhere. You can find me there on demand and right here on YouTube on demand. Thank you for your time today. And until next time, guys, game on.